paid off close to $90,000 in student loans in less than 14 years. I didn't qualify for a single student loan forgiveness program because all of my loans were private. I am officially debt free. I'm so proud of me and I really want to talk about it. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today I want to talk about how I paid off my student loans. This video is not to brag, but it was always a desire of mine to be done with my student loans before I turned 40. And last year I turned 37. I made my last payment the week of my birthday. So I was able to accomplish that goal, and I'm just really proud of me. I'm not a money expert. Literally, I'm just doing the best that I can. I'm a child of immigrants, so they were only able to give me as much knowledge as they knew. You know, we were going through the student loan process together. I'm number 2 of 7. And so my parents didn't really know a lot about student loans, what to look out for. So I just took whatever student loans I was able to get at the time. And I'm 17 years old. I really don't have a lot of credit. My parents, they didn't have the best credit, and you don't know what you don't know, like I said. So my parents really didn't know what to look out for. So over the course of those 4 years when I was in college getting my degree, I took out close to $90,000 in student loans. And I will say that I really did not understand the capacity of what I was signing up for. And I would argue that is probably the case for a lot of 17, 18-year-olds, even when their parents are co-signing loans for them. You know, student loans, especially private loans, they are very predatory in nature. And I'm hoping down the line, the ways in which we structure student loan repayment, the fine print, you know, you don't know what you don't know, and I know ignorance is no excuse, and I know a lot of people are quick to blame millennials and Gen Z who are taking out all of these student loans, but you cannot create a system in which you are not able to succeed in life or have certain careers if you don't go to school, if you don't get degrees. And so we should be coming up with ways as a society, if we are going to continue to increase the price of college and make it so much more expensive and create barriers to entry, specifically financial barriers to entry, we need to sit down and reevaluate the entire student loan system as a whole, because it is absolutely predatory and it takes advantage of people's ignorance. And as much as we can inform ourselves and absolutely should inform ourselves, you are giving 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds a vast amount of money, a large amount of money, not making sure that they understand the actual gravity of what it is that they're taking on. At the same time, I was never really, as much as I felt weighed down by my student loans and the weight of that debt, I was never really bitter about it, because I knew that the only way that I could reach the career of my dreams, or at the time anyways, because now we have a lot of different options available to us, but I graduated high school in 2005 and it was a completely different landscape. It's actually crazy to sit here and say that I graduated high school 20 years ago, which is wild. It does not feel like that. But anyways, it was a different landscape at the time, and the only path that was hammered in our heads as millennials coming up was you go to high school, you graduate, you go to college, you get a good job, you get the American dream. And so that is what was sold to us. And so I knew that in order to have the life that I desired and I wanted, I would have to get an education, and I could not pay for it out of pocket. My parents could not pay for it out of pocket. So I would have to find a way to pay for these student loans. And yes, I got scholarships and grants, and I did, I was an RA in college, and so that was some money taken off there. And I worked in college, so that was some money taken off there. So I did do as much as I could to really supplement not having to take out as much as student loans. So I'm really grateful that I was only took out like a little less than $90,000 in student loans, because there are some people who owe $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for their education, which is actually crazy. So I'm very grateful that the only amount that I had to take out was $90,000. But when I graduated from college in 2009, I graduated during the recession. I was just happy to have a freaking job, right? I was just so happy to have something, because I know I was really lucky. It only took me 9 months to find a job. Some of my other friends, it took them a year. Then they just gave up and they went to grad school because they weren't able to find anything. And so I felt really fortunate that I was able to find a job out of college, even though like it wasn't well paying. It's actually funny. I went and found the job offer that I got from college, like my first job out of college, and I was making $38,000. That is actually wild to me to think about. And I started paying off my student loans in 2010. Yeah, 2010. And so my completion date was gonna be 2029. And I looked at the interest. I just looked at how much I would be paying back in interest over time. And I decided, no, I'm going to pay these down as aggressively and quickly as possible. And so I am not a money management expert. This is just what I did that worked for me. And I think that there were 3 things that I did that really helped me pay off my student loans as quickly as I did. In hindsight, I probably should have consolidated them because I had student loans with interest rates ranging from 2.2% to as high as 13%. I probably should have consolidated, even snowbait. That's what I call my husband. Even snowbait, like several times throughout the years, he was like, you should really look into getting these consolidated. And it was just something that it didn't make sense to me. Like, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start paying off the high interest ones first. So that's what I did. I targeted the high interest loans that I had, and I was paying all of them at the same time. I was just aggressively targeting and paying down the student loans that had the highest interest rate. And so if my payment was like $200, $300, I would pay $400, you know, so I was really hitting at that interest because that's what kills you. If you only had to pay back the amount that you owed, you'd be fine, right? Most people I think would be okay, but it's the interest. They're making money off of your promise of saying, okay, you know, I'll pay it back with interest. So that's what they're making money off of. And so I was very specific to be like, put this towards the interest, put this towards the interest, because I was fine with the principal, but I wanted the interest amount to be paid down, especially because some of my interest rates were variable. They weren't fixed rate. The lower interest rates that I had 7 loans in total, and the lowest interest rates were 2.2, 2.4, 4.4, and 4.6. Those were fixed. They did not change. But then my other interest rates, I had one at 7.7, I think it was, another at 13%, and then the other one was 9%, but those were variable interest rates. So they changed, they fluctuated so much. So because they fluctuated like that, I was like, oh, hell no, y'all are not going to continue to get maybe more money from me this month, maybe less money. And then as the time goes out, I'm still owing you all of this money based off of interest rates that are just like topsy-turvy and moving and sliding all over the place. So I definitely paid down those loans first. I tackled the high interest rate loans first because those were the ones that not only were the most expensive, they were the ones that I knew that were going to cost me more in the long run if I just paid the monthly fixed amount with that targeted 2029 date. So I was like, nope, I'm going to pay these ones down first. And like I said, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a money management expert. I'm just telling you what worked for me. And what worked for me was paying down the student loans that had the higher interest rates and the variable interest rates. I never just paid the set monthly payment. All right, so this is the second thing I did. Was I have had a part-time job since 2016. When I graduated from college, I graduated in 2009. I knew that I was going to be paying back these student loans, and the amount of money that I was making, it was probably going to be a struggle. And I was thinking to myself, okay, how do I save for retirement? How do I save for my 401k? How do I live my life? How do I pay my student loans? How am I going to pay my rent? You know, how am I going to do this with this $38,000 salary? And yes, over the years, how much I've made has increased, and that has helped me pay down my student loans. But the biggest thing I'm going to tell you now is having a second form of income was probably the biggest thing that helped me pay down my student loans so quickly. We are increasingly living in a society where it is difficult to get by on your full-time job. And yes, I'm comfortable now. That didn't happen until maybe 5 years ago. Until 5 years ago, I would not have been able to survive off of my salary that I'm making now. And I'm not counting my husband's salary in with that. I'm just saying how much I made, my salary, only up until 5 years ago. I would not have been able to survive, just me, just by myself, survive in terms of paying my student loan, paying my rent, and paying other bills. It would have been very difficult for me off of one income. So I've always had a part-time job. It's actually funny the way I came into my part-time job. When I was working my first job, I noticed that I was really like sedentary and I wasn't moving as much. I was gaining a lot of weight. And so I was like, okay, I really don't like how I'm feeling. My body, I just feel sluggish. I'm not supposed to feel like this in my 20s. I got to start hitting the gym. So I started going to the gym, and then from going to gym, I started going to boutique fitness classes because I really love group fitness. I'm a big group fitness girl. And so from group fitness, I found indoor cycling, I found spin, and I was like, wait a minute, I love this and I could do this and I want to do this. Hindsight is always 2020, and the way things work out, everything works out the way it's supposed to. But before COVID, it was my goal to transition full-time into the fitness industry. And I've been teaching indoor cycling part-time. I taught during the nights and on the weekends. And that, having that secondary income, I was able to fully throw so much of it either into savings or paying off my student loans. So that secondary income helped out a lot. But through cycling, that was my passion. I wanted to leave my full-time job, my full-time career, and become a fitness instructor, teach indoor cycling. However, COVID happened and the fitness industry completely changed. And now we're getting back to a place where if I really wanted to pursue it full-time, 100%, I probably could do fitness, because we are finally kind of level setting from the topsy-turviness that was COVID, because COVID changed so much in the industry, in the fitness industry, and I can have another conversation about that another day. But anyways, I was like, okay, if I can't do this full time, at the very least, let me have this part-time job. And it is so hard, like I said, it is increasingly harder to live with just one income, depending on where you're living and how much you're making. Like, I live in a major city. The cost of everything is so expensive. And if it was just me, up until 5 years ago, I would have been really struggling by myself. And so having that secondary income was really helpful into paying down my student loans. And so everything that I was making from cycling, it was either going to savings or it was going to helping me pay down my student loans. So if you're able to, if you have the mental capacity, and the reason why I say if you have the mental capacity, I love cycling. You know, even if I wasn't getting paid, I would still be doing it. Like, it's so funny. Before we got direct deposit, we were getting paper checks, and my studio manager, like every 2 or 3 months, he'd have to call me like, Sasha, come and get your checks. They are literally, please just let us do direct deposit for you. They are sitting here collecting dust, and if you do not collect them in 100 days, they will be void. So come and get your checks. So if you are able to find something that ignites your passion and that you really enjoy in that capacity, a part-time job, then definitely pursue that. Maybe for you, it'll be content creation. Content creation has really opened up a lot of doors and opportunities to make passive income on the side. So if you are really creative, if you're a creative type of person and you want to lean into content creation, you know, TikTok plays very well, YouTube. I'm not in a place where I'm making like loads and loads of money off of YouTube. Hopefully I'll be there someday, which subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to like the video, drop down in the comments if you found this video helpful. Don't leave your girl hanging, because someday I really want to be successful on this platform. So content creation is just one of those ways where you can be making passive income. So I will say, if you are able to do so, if you have the capacity to, if you have the time to, if you have the desire to, if you have the energy to, I would definitely encourage you to get a part-time job, especially if your full-time job or your full-time salary and income is not really enough for you to, if you want to pay down your student loans quickly and you're not able to do so, I would encourage you to get a part-time job. And that is something that hugely, hugely helped me pay off my student loans a lot quicker. The third thing is kind of common sense, but I feel like it is worth noting only because we still do live in a society where, even though the cost of everything is going up and we are dealing with inflation and wages and salaries not rising to match the inflation and the increasing cost of living. However, we are still existing in a society where people are trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to flex for people on the internet. And I've just never really ascribed to that. I've always been really happy with my lot in life. Comparison is a thief of joy. So I'm not comparing my life or my reality to anybody else's. And so for me, the third thing was just really like living within my means. You know, I think it was really easy for me to pay off my student loans, or pay them off as quickly as I did, like in less than 14 years, because I live very much in my means. You know, I don't have kids. That's the biggest thing. Kids are very expensive. Kids are very expensive. I don't have kids. We don't have a mortgage. We're renters. So even though we are paying rent, we don't have that like level of debt hanging over our head. So that's why I was very intentional to say at the beginning of the video, I am debt free on top of paying off my student loans, because if I had a mortgage, I would have paid off my student loans, yes, but I would also still be in debt. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have a mortgage. Also, I don't have a car. My husband, he bought that car, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's completely paid off. Yeah, I think 6 or 7 years ago, it's completely paid off. So there's no car payment there. Where we live is very walkable. So I walk as many places, or I'll grab the metro. If I need the car, I'll like grab it from him. But for the most part, we don't really live above our means. We live very much within our means, and living within our means make it so like we are big travel people. So we travel a lot. Every year we go to at least like 2 or 3 places. Well, that's been a more recent thing, I would say. Probably since 2016, 2017, we've been able to take like 2 vacations a year, maybe 3 vacations. But again, that's because that's our priority. Like we prioritize travel over material things, but everybody has different values. Like some people don't want to travel at all. They don't care to travel. And so they will prioritize material things, you know, purses, clothes, shoes, watches, you know, whatever. Everybody has their thing. Our thing is travel. So that's what we spend our money on, our discretionary income, you know, like, okay, bills are paid, 401k is paid, rent's paid. Okay, what are we going to spend money on now, you know? Number 2, having that secondary income, and then also living within your means, not really spending money on dumb things, like things you don't need. And this is not to like shame anyone, because I think that we are very, like when we see people who are struggling, as a millennial, you would hear like boomers being like, oh, well, these millennials, if they weren't spending money on avocado toast and blah, 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 you know, they would have money for X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, shut the hell up. Like somebody buying avocado toast is not what's making or breaking them not being able to pay their rent, or not being able to buy a house, or not being able to pay off their student loans. It's because salaries are not increasing to rise the cost of living. Wages are not rising to match inflation. And again, the cost of living, the way people continue to talk down to millennials and now Gen Z about the actual crisis we find ourselves in as far as housing crisis and financial crisis in the form of student loans, it's actually like, it's just so messed up, because you have these boomers who were able to, and Gen Xers too, who were able to benefit off of programs that are not available to us, who are able to benefit from low cost of colleges and universities that is not available to us. And we've created this society where the only way we can get ahead is to go to college, you know, because the quickest way to change your social class, to increase your social class, is through education. And so you've made it so that even entry-level jobs now, secretarial jobs, you have to have a 4-year degree. And in some places you have to have a master's degree. You know, we've created this environment where the barrier to entry is education. And so in order to get that education, we have to pay hundreds of thousands or thousands, tens of thousands, some people hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this education. And then you turn around and on people for getting that education so they can increase their chances of just living a comfortable life. And a lot of people are now not even able to afford that comfortable life. You got people in San Francisco, engineers, people with degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, sleeping in their cars because the cost of living, the apartments in the areas, the houses in the areas are unaffordable. It's actually crazy to me. Yes, I will judge you if you're saying you're struggling and somehow you manage to get Beyonce tickets, because like, girl, girl, be so for real. Did you need to spend $900 on Beyonce? Immediately no. How you spending $900 on Beyonce and you can't pay your rent and you can't pay your student loans? Like, come on. So like, yes, like some things I would like give a side eye to, like for real. But for the most part, I'm not here to shame people for the small comforts and satisfactions they enjoy, the small things, $10 here, $15 there, as they're trying to make it through a world that is increasingly hostile to them, and a lifestyle that we were promised is no longer accessible without great sacrifice or financial like burden. But yeah, I tried to like keep my expenses as low as possible. I think that's something that really helped me be so determined and able to pay off my student loans in such a short time frame. And I'm just like, I am really proud of me. I really haven't talked about it. Like I shared it on Instagram on the week of my birthday. It was like kind of a birthday gift to myself to pay off my student loans. So I shared it the week of my birthday. I think my husband and I, we celebrated because now we're like legit debt free. It's like a great feeling. He's been debt free forever. Like he didn't really have to take out a lot of student loans. I don't think he had to take out many, if I'm being totally honest. Like he played D1 basketball, and so that was covered. And yeah, so he really didn't have a lot. But for me, I'm just really proud of me because as a child of immigrants, your parents come to this country or come to any country because they want to give you better opportunities. They want to give you more than they had, or just set you up for success in the ways in which you will not have to struggle the ways that they struggled. And so my parents, they were only able to give me the knowledge that they knew. And I've always been very hardworking. And I think that when you are someone who is a very hardworking individual, you know money's gonna come. It's just a matter of when it's gonna come, how quickly is it gonna come, how much of it is gonna come. But you know, you don't worry about money because you know you're gonna make it. You know you're gonna find a way to make it. And that's always the outlook that I've had. And so I was always really determined to pay off these student loans because I didn't want them to impact the quality of my life. And sometimes it was like really hard. Like, you know, I remember after, when I was living by myself, before my husband and I started dating and before we moved in together, there were some days, there were some months where I was like, okay, I paid my rent, I paid my student loans, I got $20 to decide between bus fare and groceries. How am I gonna make this work? Like, oh my God, girl, we was struggling. I was like eating freaking tuna packets, like and again, no shame, because you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. When you're a hardworking person, when you're a person who is willing to sacrifice for the things that you want, you're going to get it done by any means necessary. So yes, it was like freaking hard. And I cannot believe, if I could tell 22-year-old Sasha one thing, it would be like, go back to your parents' house. Y'all had a fight. You didn't have to move out of your parents' house. Go back home. And I'm telling you this right now, if you're watching this video and you are able to live with your parents for as long as possible, and you're able to exist in that space respectfully, they respect you, you respect them, they respect you as an adult. They're not trying to police your behavior. You don't got to pay no rent, or you got to pay very minimal rent or bills. Do it, okay? Do it, because it was crazy. I'm thinking about how I was paying, and at the time it wasn't terrible, but I was $38,000, and I think my rent at the time was like $1,000. And so it was not a smart financial decision. And I really struggled for a great number of years until I was able to get, you know, work experience under my belt and demand more of a salary as a result of that. And like 5 years ago, like I said, was the first time in my life where I felt just like comfortable, like I felt okay, like I'm not struggling anymore. But because I existed in that space for so long, I still feel like I'm still struggling. Like it was just hard for me to feel very comfortable. So that's why, looking back on being able to pay off my student loans, that's why I regard it and feel like it is such an accomplishment, because I know how hard I had to work and how much I sacrificed to make it happen. And I'm just really, really proud of me. I'm really proud of me. And just because I wasn't able to get student loan, I wasn't eligible for student loan forgiveness. If it is available to anybody, please take it and get that monkey off your back. Like, none of my loans were federal loans. And so I had to pay everything back. It like really sucks. I wish I had qualified for student loan forgiveness, but it is what it is. If somebody else is able, if you're able to qualify for it, absolutely take it. And I really hope they bring back the student loan forgiveness program, because it would be instrumental in the lives of like millions of Americans. And it's not something that would just benefit Gen Z and millennials. It's something that will benefit future generations, you know, Gen Alpha, the children of millennials and Gen Z. When you are not paying, when you are not making all of those payments, when all of that money is not leaving your house, you're able to invest it in your family, in your home. It's only going to benefit the children of those parents who are being saddled with all of the student loan debt. So I really hope and pray that student loan forgiveness, we can get that back and people can, you know, really take full advantage of those programs, because nobody should be living the rest of their lives trying to pay off a degree that they got 20, 30 years ago. It's crazy. And we need to revamp these student loan programs so they are no longer predatory and taking advantage of families who are just really trying to do the best for their children and set them up for success. If you are on a student loan repayment journey or just any debt repayment journey, I wish you so much success. Like, I hope this was a little helpful. I know it's not profound to say live within your means. But if I, as a first generation child of immigrants, can be an example that you can do it too, I hope that that is what this video serves as, and maybe it just inspires you to keep going, because it is hard and you will have to make sacrifices and it's gonna suck for a little bit, but there is like a light at the end of the tunnel. Drop down in the comments, let me know what you thought. Are you on a student loan repayment journey? Have you completely paid off your student loans? If so, I love that for you. Isn't it the best feeling ever? Like, it's such a good feeling. But anyways, drop down in the comments, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. And until next time, peace out.